On YouTube and set the camera up. So hello, yes, so we are live on both YouTube and TikTok, and obviously today's focus is that time the Dutch ate their Prime Minister. In fact, I'm going to message through a couple more bits to let more and more people know I am live, and we're also going to make Streamlabs full screen so I don't have a count, because looking at your count is horrific, as we all know. But yes, obviously today's topic, I was going to do another Baldur's Gate stream, but it's just too hard to answer questions at the same time as trying to play a 40-year-old game. So today we are talking about the time the Dutch ate their Prime Minister, and as I've said on multiple occasions, my favourite moment in human history, because the politician was being eaten alive. Well, not alive. He was, you know, they were decent people. They cooked him first. And I think that is a very nice thing to do. Oh, I need to move my chat over on the screen so I can actually read it. But yes, as normal rules apply, ask a question. If you ask it on TikTok, it will be more easier and quicker to answer on YouTube. YouTube gets priority for now. But yes, ask away. So, and then once there's a few people in, we'll start talking about why the Dutch ate their Prime Minister. Would I like to fight? No, not really. What am I doing today? We're talking about the time the Dutch ate their Prime Minister. That's the live today. And obviously, you'll get priority asking questions on YouTube. Nice, Tash. Thank you very much, KD. But yes, hang on, I want to end that poll first, because I've kept that going for our end poll. There we go. No one really got into it. But yes. So wow, that's fascinating. So. I've got a few sources up in front of me because I'm gonna read it, because I don't want to just go off of memory. But in fact, I've got a Dutch review up, and I thought, you know, maybe having a Dutch source would probably be the best way to, well, source it. But yeah, so any questions you have as we go along, we will look at it. So, 1672. The Grand Pensionary, or it's essentially the Dutch Prime Minister, is well, he's not well liked. Our history actor is locking me in with a paywall. Just use adverts like normal papers. So the Dutch Prime Minister at this point in history isn't well liked, for various reasons. And I need to mute myself. There we go. He's not well liked for various reasons, and one of the reasons is his brother is currently in jail. In fact, I'm gonna read off the article as we go along. So we're in the 17th century, and obviously at this point in history, there's empires growing and making way. Also, if the noise in the background is too much, let me know and I'll turn off the fan. Also, thank you for following me, Sam. But yes, so as this is the age of empire, and it's specifically the Dutch Golden Age, and obviously the Dutch are very famous for going around everywhere and trading with anyone they could. It was sort of how their empire became so powerful. It was very much a trade empire, similar to how the British Empire would function, but much more heavily focused on trade. It wasn't as much land-based. In fact, I believe it was the Dutch that were quite famously would be one of the few Europeans allowed to trade in Japan. I love the Tash, mate, from space. Thank you very much, and also a follow. Don't forget, guys, if you want priority asking questions, make sure you head over to YouTube, and I will answer your questions faster over there. So during the Dutch Golden Age, we have President Johan de Witt. Right, so the Dutch Golden Age lasted between starting in 1575 and ending in 1672. Now, obviously, this moment of mob justice took place in, I believe it was 1642. Dutch was murdered in Hague. No, it was 1672. Yes, which is fun. Explain the title, perhaps. I'm a bit confused. Okay, so the Dutch. So well, as we're saying, this whole live will be going into how the Dutch ate their Prime Minister, but essentially is, well, I can't explain it quickly without basically destroying the entire purpose of the live. So we'll get to the build-up. So how the eating happened, we'll get to in a second. But as I said, guys, make sure you are on YouTube if you want priority on your questions. The Portuguese Empire would be a good comparison to the Dutch. Yes, very much so. Although the Dutch were trading in slightly different things to the Portuguese. The Portuguese got as much as Netflix's documentary on Njinga is very, very bad, it doesn't really portray that she was herself a slaver. It just focuses a bit much on the Portuguese, but that's the best source I know that could give you a really good idea on that. Yeah, the Dutch were a bit less focused on the trading humans. I can see Fireman, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Red Boxes in the background. Yes. I've not actually completed those games. Not recent time. Mustache looking great today. Thank you very much. Your mustache looks like a ball. It's great. Thank you. I meant more using trade posting rather than land acquisition. Yes, fair enough. Yes, I agree. It's just someone put an A in there. Brilliant. So anyways. Why are you blocking me off? I hate the fact that I have to sign up to articles now to be able to read them. Excellent. Yes, brilliant. Thank you. So if we go on, I don't care about any of these. Yeah, let's just go for that. Excellent. Anyone married horse and made it a senator recently? I haven't. As it goes, I haven't. I haven't played Crusader Kings 2 in a long time. Has that event come up in Crusader Kings 3? Has anyone else experienced that, or is it just they've stuck that into Crusader Kings 2? It is far too hot. My brain is melting. So we're going to start off with the early life of Johann de Witt. So Witt was is it? I think I'm going to stick with Witt because otherwise it's gonna get stuff. Do you know who Kylie Minogue is? Yes, everyone knows who Kylie Minogue is. If you grew up in like the early 2000s, it's supposed to get horror in the UK. It's going to be fun. See, we didn't have a summer, and now we're going to have like the most next level hot autumn. I don't understand. I don't understand weather patterns, and the weather forecasters are useless, anyways. So De Witt doesn't start off with the most like struggling life. He's born into a wealthy family, and he obviously received a good education, and like son, like father, his father was in politics, and it was only because of his father that he himself could get into politics and explore that political realm and get into it, so to speak. In fact, he would get into politics at a very young age, and obviously, being from a wealthy family, he would become very well travelled, and he would be very well read because he had that easily available to him at a time period when most people wouldn't have had it available to them. So he would graduate from the Leiden University in the 17th century, which is amazing accuracy from this article, given that it's set in the 17th century. So as time goes, he contributes to like a load of diplomatic missions with his father, getting his name out there, traveling to places like Italy, France, England, Switzerland, even his older brother, Cornelius de Witt. This is important later. The relationship with his brother is important for how he finds himself getting eaten. I like this form. But yeah, how is everyone enjoying this form of live so far? What uni did I go to? I went to I'm not going to say which one I did because it sort of semi-doxes myself if I say which uni I went to. But I went to uni for film and television, which is how I got most of my television skills. Nice Celtic cross. Thank you very much. And remember, guys, if you want priority when asking questions, make sure you ask them over on the YouTube live, and definitely subscribe to YouTube while you're over there. So you went to a polytechnic. No, it was connected to the University of Arts London. That's much I'll say without doxing myself too much. Okay, so back to De Witt. Witt started studying law in one of the law schools in The Hague in 1650. Also, how is the YouTube live performing? Is it doing okay? Are we doing okay? Excellent. yeah, make sure you head over to the YouTube chat. And make sure you have a like over on YouTube. It's very important that you like over on YouTube to make sure that it's notifying other people that I am, in fact, live. So, once back from one of his diplomatic missions, Witt started studying law in one of the law schools in The Hague, and in 1650, when the then Prince William II, Prince of Orange, who I believe is our William of Orange. I think it's William of Orange who would go on to do stuff in England and, you know, Glencoe Massacre. Okay. So yeah, so when you so William II, Prince of Orange, died. Witt was among the people who would begin creating a republican regime with a full minority, and he'd get elected as a pensionary of Dordrecht, which is a region in the Netherlands that I can't pronounce properly, so I apologize for that. Is this your content you're just reading with Peter? So this is an event. This is an event in history that I like quite well, and I've obviously got the article from Medium up to make sure that I'm getting the facts spot on. When I do a eventual video, obviously, then it'll be more research, and all sources will be listed in the comments below or in the description, as is all of my other content on YouTube, which I am going to say again, guys, make sure you head over to YouTube, and comments obviously are focused on more over there. Mate, would you permanently shave your moustache for $4 grand? My moustache. I actually, a friend of mine actually asked me that the other day, and I set it up as I set it up as it would be about 250k. To get my moustache shaved, but yeah. So where was I? Regime. Right, so he's elected to the pensionary of Dordrecht, which is a region in the Netherlands. Again, I can't pronounce it very correctly. So anyone from the Netherlands, anyone who's watching, I do apologise. Now, he makes his way to the front line of politics at this point, getting more and more power. Obviously, this is the classic rise to power for any politician. She wouldn't do it for 249k. Yeah, no, depending on the charity, maybe. Where are we? And so he found himself climbing the ladder of success and was led as a councillor to the pensionary to the highest position in the country at the time. This is equivalent to today's prime minister or presidential position. So he's essentially in charge of the country at this time, which is getting on to the bit I'm starting to be very well aware of, the bit that I know the best, the bit of this story that I'm the most well versed in. Before, obviously, before Witt reached his highest position, he was also began making many political reforms and strengthened the Dutch economy with his diplomatic skills. So he's overall not the worst leader that the Dutch would have, but he does some things that are going to upset them, as we'll get to in a second. He managed to maintain or create the Triple Alliance in 1668, which is an alliance between the Dutch Republic, England, and Sweden. Sweden and England had some very interesting relationships over the years, and like you have to remember, at this point in European history, alliances are very much like a river. They sort of go in their own direction, and they sort of go in their own direction. And just appear and disappear as time goes on. A point noted here is under supervision leader. So the Dutch economy is growing. Now you have to remember, the Dutch economy would be incredibly strong for a long period of time, especially towards the end of the Dutch Golden Age. And like, there's a lot of trade that's flying through the Dutch. Like the English Navy and the Dutch Navy are two of the most important factors during this time period. Which is why the William of Orange, William of Orange sort of got into the position he did, but he obviously created a bit more of chaos. And he's not exactly the favourable, especially in Scotland. William of Orange isn't looked on favourably. There's a running theme of Dutch leadership not being that amazing. So this alliance essentially turned these three countries into one big powerful team that would set up against France. And as you know, the English liked France. My favorite part of history is World War One, World War Two. World War One and World War Two are interesting. I prefer looking into World War One. Also, Rob, thank you for the follow. I prefer World War One than I do World War Two because it's much more dark and gritty. Saying it out loud like that sounds wrong, but it's hard as a history person. As a history person, it's as a history person, it's hard to word it correctly for to other people out, but you get what I'm saying. World War One was so much more interwebbed and connected alliances that that make no sense how it happened. It was a domino effect that was waiting to happen. Whereas World War Two is a fight of against evil. Obviously, you had the German army that weren't entirely evil; they were fighting for their country. But you had the SS, and especially in Eastern Europe, that did like the worst atrocities. Whereas World War One it's a lot of men going to fight and dying for essentially nothing, because one guy killed another guy in Eastern Europe, and the dominoes fell like that. And I think World War One is for the soldiers fighting a lot more horrible. For civilians, I think World War Two is obviously a lot more horrible. I tend to dive into World War One a lot more than I do World War Two. But yes, anyways, guys, make sure you're heading over to YouTube and subscribing over there. Obviously, YouTube will get you'll get your questions answered quicker over YouTube. YouTube comments get priority. Also, thank you for follow, Jamie. And yes, trench warfare was held. We still, obviously, in Ukraine, we're getting examples of modern trench warfare and what that's like, which I think is incredibly strange. Like how we're taught about this bygone time and things that have happened in like untold decades before us. We see as a long gone piece of our past, and we're seeing it happen again in the modern day and age. And trench warfare, you would think, would be over and done with. It wouldn't fit with modern technology. Obviously, we have drones and stuff like that, but in Ukraine, my knowledge on Ukrainian conflict isn't as amazing as it should be. You're seeing how it works and how the trenches are burned into the landscape. And from what I've seen, the Russian trenches seem to be a lot worse for wear. I'll go and sub to you. Thank you very much, Jamie. A lot died before they even fired a bullet. Yes, very, very true. There was, I think it's the Battle of the Somme specifically that always stuck out to me as a child, where the men were just told to walk. They weren't running, they weren't charging at the enemy, they were just told to walk calmly towards the German machine guns, and the Germans casually opened up fire with their machine guns. And that, it's just sad. World War One specifically is just upsetting. The first wave sent out to machine gun fire. The first wave in a lot of battles in World War One were essentially just bullet sponges for the second and third waves. And may I say cheers? Are you saying cheers to World War One battles or to me? One of those is nice, one of those is scary. But thank you if that's to me. Thank you very much, Agent. Like walking to your death. He said, yeah, World War One was essentially a bunch of men going up against going out of their trenches and walking easily to their unaliving. Trying to be careful of TikTok and YouTube guidelines at the same time. But that's what World War One was. It was walking to your own passing, essentially. Anyways, back to DeWitt. This alliance forced King Louis to. Let me translate Roman numerals there. Numerals. Crows, you can't. Yeah, that's TikTok. Okay, so it's Louis XIV. So Louis XIV steps back in, remains silent rather than come up with a strategy, or rather than attacking violently, so launching an attack on Holland. Louis started to work in order to break this alliance, and soon he succeeded as well as he signed the Treaty of Dover at the Dutch's expense. So now we have DeWitt's legacy sort of falling apart. Hello, Big Daddy. This happened in 1672. Yeah, Yeah, I believe this was 1672 as we get to the end of the article. Yes, so it was 1672 that the Dutch ate their prime minister, and we're just getting to the juicy bit of how that happened. We've got to the build up and the rise to power of Johan de Witt, and now we're going to see how he got eaten. Also, remember, guys, make sure if you're heading over to YouTube, make sure to head over to YouTube and comment in the live chat there. You do get priority when asking questions. And then once the article's over, I will switch to just regular. So we've been going for about half an hour now, I think. Yeah, I think we've been going live about half an hour now. Must have been. Even though Thingy's been saying an hour, but we've definitely not been going live an hour. No way, have we been going an hour already? Damn, didn't even realise the time flies. No, it'll be about 20 minutes. Anyways, I need to stay focused when I go live, man. It's crazy you can't say unalive, but you can twerk. Yeah, no, that's just TikTok for you. I spy a Skyrim map. Yes, that is my little Skyrim map. I've had that years since I got Skyrim. I got Skyrim in like 2012, and that map has stayed up the entire time. I love that mustache. Thank you very much, Gar. That's an interesting name. But yes, make sure if you are on the live on TikTok, please go over to YouTube and subscribe, and also the chat and YouTube, it gets priority when asking questions. So we'll get up to the end of the article, and then we'll then we'll take more focus on questions. So this is when we have the year of disaster. In 1672, Louis finally declares war and attacks the Spanish Netherlands and tries to conquer a large portion of the country. This event is also known as the Great Invasion of Holland in 1672. I don't know why they would call it the Great Invasion of Holland in 1672. The "in" seems kind of like, for naming conventions, just seems kind of useless. And this is the beginning of the end for Johan de Witt. The people are now starting to turn against him and starting to turn to William III of Orange. This is obviously, being a Republican, De Witt is now falling out of favour, and obviously if you're the Republican leader of your country is failing you and getting hammered in a war, you're going to turn to the monarchy. It's just, humans don't get nuanced. We tend to go from one way to the other very, very quickly. So as the Dutch people are beginning to, well, they denounced De Witt. They denounced De Witt as a traitor. So the year of disaster is now rolling in. You can see why I edit my my videos so aggressively. The year of disaster is now rolling in, and well, De Witt is still ruling as the Council of Pentistry, which is obviously back their version of a prime minister. He was one of the most prominent figures in Dutch politics and in government at the time. When he was denounced as a traitor, some attempts would begin to be made on him and his brother's life. His brother, Cornelis, would be arrested on flimsy charges. They weren't exactly, it was very much a show trial, similar to how Oliver Cromwell would essentially invent a load of charges on Charles I. Don't get me wrong, Charles I wasn't exactly a good monarch, even as someone who really loves looking at monarchs through history. Charles I really wasn't a good monarch. This was basically just a show trial to get him out of power and to allow the monarchist faction more power and to get them back to the position they wanted. So everyone's claiming that Cornelis de Witt is basically trying to assassinate William III of Orange. This then leads to Johan de Witt deciding to visit his brother in prison. This is the bit I know very, very well. This wasn't a good decision, because on the 20th of August 1672, a mob would form baying for Johan's head. They would be so aggressively angry at his failings of the country. He at one point was their beloved leader, and now he had failed the country he had guided to the best of his ability. and mob justice is very, very angry. So both brothers are now taken out of the prison and hanged. And this is where historians' accounts will differ. Now, we know that the liver was almost certainly eaten. That's the bit we 100% do know. Johann de Witt's liver was eaten. However, many people would claim eating loads of other stuff. Like one guy claimed to have eaten Johann's eyeball. This it can't all be corroborated. We do know there wasn't much of a body left to bury, which is why I personally prescribe to the fact that they did eat him. The reasons this happened can be completely different and are mostly symbolic. So there's a good chance they were eating him to sort of like take power away from him. His body was mutilated. Whether he was eaten in the street or at homes, like some sources claim that he was taken to people's homes and eaten. Some say that they just had a massive barbecue with his body. Overall, it all had the same outcome. And the statement, "We hate him, so we ate him," he becomes the mob's phrase. And yeah, that is the story of how the Dutch ate their prime minister. And now, as we move into the last half an hour of the show, because I didn't think we'd get through the story so quick, as we move into the last half an hour of the show, I will be beginning taking questions. So, drop me any of your history questions and any intriguing questions as to why the Dutch ate their prime minister. Again, most of the reasons as to why the Dutch ate the prime minister is because, well, he was losing a war. What now? Actually, to be fair, we can go into why I like this particular. Was Jesus a Muslim? No, but Muhammad was a Catholic. I shouldn't have said that, knowing full well that I've got it on YouTube now, so that's staying up forever. And what's your favourite bit of history to research? Ancient Greece is is my go-to for historical research. Aside from ancient Greece and obviously Rome, I do have a very, very big soft spot for the Winged Hussars. Specifically, I believe 1683, wasn't it? The Siege of Vienna. 1683 Siege of Vienna. Yes. So the reason I love the Winged Hussars, and this was where my love of Polish history would begin, was when I've done a full video on this on YouTube. Feel free to check it out. So the Austrians are like one of the Habsburg princes in Austria. There's a big war between the Hungarians, who are being supported by the Ottomans, and the Habsburgs, Austrians, who are trying to claim Hungary. As much as I dislike the Habsburgs in this case, I support them because I despise the Ottomans and the fact that they exist. So what happens is the Austrian Habsburg prince goes off and finds help from the German electorate, so like some Saxon princes, and most commonly known, I know his name is John and pronounced English, but every time I say John, everyone gets mad at me. Where's his Polish name? There we go, Jan Sobieski. Right, so he is, at this time, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth it's in its fallen glory. It's collapsing down. Is Taylor going to replace Jesus? Yes, in California. Good pronunciation. Thank you very much, because I'm 100% convinced that I absolutely butchered all of the Dutch names earlier. I love God and Jesus. Good for you, Dion. Dion. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. I know Google say Jesus was no picture. Oh, the chat's going to get me cancelled. But yes, as always, guys, make sure you are subscribed on YouTube, and comments on YouTube get priority for answer questions. So anyways, Jan Sobieski would lead the largest cavalry charge in human history. It would be 40,000 people strong. Wait, was it? No, it was 20,000. Hang on. Fairly certain it was 40,000. Is it 20,000? No, it's 20,000. My apologies. Okay, so it was 20,000 people strong. I just have the memory of a deranged goldfish. Overall, they had they had 80,000 troops overall, but the cavalry charge itself contained 20,000 people, and they smashed into the superior numbers of the Ottoman army, and they pretty much saved Europe from Ottoman expansion. And that stunning. But yes, that is the other area of history I quite like, specifically cavalry units, and very, very specifically the Winged Hussars. Is Alexander the Great Greek or North Macedonian? Right, so that question is very loaded, obviously, because it comes under a lot of nationalism nowadays. In the ancient term, he would be Macedonian, because the ancient Hellenic kingdom of Macedon was a region that was obviously, it was of the Greek kingdoms and city-states. In the modern sense, Alexander would be Greek. That's just the easiest way to look around it. Alexander would be Greek in the modern sense. In the ancient sense, Macedonian, because you have to remember that Greece wasn't united at that point in history. North Macedonia doesn't have any claim to Alexander. It's just trumped up nationalism that leads back to Tito doing some nasty things to the North Macedonians. Yeah, it's probably a topic I'm gonna revisit at some point. That I'm considering revisiting more and more. But yes, do you ever look into Irish history? I have. In fact, I've got a video on Irish history on YouTube. We can have a look at that now, because I can share my screen. Oh well, on YouTube you can see me sharing the screen. Let's have a look over it on my videos. Hang on, let's share the screen here. So if we go down to, actually I can search. I specifically also thank you for the weights, and thank you for the lightning bolt, Coppo. Thank you very much. So I did a video on Grace O'Malley, and I believe that's the only bit of Irish history I've done to date. I really enjoyed the story of Grace O'Malley, and the fact that she's just, it's a year ago now, so the video isn't up to the same standards that I currently have for my stuff, but let's see. Yeah, you can see I've got a really tiny moustache, and the background isn't as good, and the video quality isn't good. Why does Ireland have a hissy fit every 100 years? Elaborate. They're not really having a hissy fit. They were under occupation by Scotland and England in various different ways. They were just sort of rebelling, which, you know, it's no different to Judea under Rome, or Gaul under Rome, or the entirety of Britain under, or the occupied portions of Britain under Rome, or any empire. That's, yeah. Just got sacked from my job, devastated. Oh, that's sad, man. I hope you get back on your feet soon. Sad to hear that. Yeah. What was your job in, if you don't mind me asking? But yeah, the nations are obviously going to try and rebel to break away from empires. That's just how empires work. People come in and occupy, and people are like, I would like to leave. But over time, people are integrated. The only reason Ireland, I believe, probably really had a go is just because they were constantly on the raw end of the stick, specifically from Scotland and England. Wales also spent a lot of time rebelling. In fact, you have Owen Glendower, who was actually pro-English monarchy in his youth. He actually spent a lot more time on the side of the English, and then he was screwed over, specifically for taxes. And so that ended up being, we'll switch back to the Daddy Chats mode on that one now. That ended up being a big contention, and he very nearly succeeded. In fact, he was the northern portions of England were looking for their own independence and own claimants, and the maps would have looked very different. Do I believe that the map of the British Isles could go differently? Yes, very much so. If William the Conqueror doesn't come in, if Henry, Anglo-Irish relations were steadily meeting an equilibrium until Henry VIII comes along. Henry VIII comes along and says, wow, all of the the English in Ireland, or Ire, are becoming too Irish, so we're going to fix that. And so he just does a load of silly laws to stamp out Irish culture, and he even forces more settlers. And obviously, this would then snowball, and eventually you would have the events that would happen during World War One. Obviously, the Irish Wars of Independence, and then the Irish Civil War. Those moments were entirely preventable, and I can see why both sides were so angry and so much hated each other, because one side believed it was part of an oppression empire, it was fighting a war it didn't want to fight, and the other side was like, wow, we're fighting a war, why are you not helping us? And as the Doctor said, it would be much more, it would have worked so much better if everyone had just sat down and talked. If you're the first English person to understand, well, I do have Irish ancestry. Like I say, the Anglo-Irish relations can be very easily solved if you go back through history and you just change how leadership functions. There's a reason that the Roman Empire was able to last as long as it was, and there's a reason that the British Empire lasted as long as it was. The only issue was the administration was horrific. Administration comes down to it. How can you easily prove that? Look at Rome. Rome was very well administrated for a very long time, and they managed to get a balance between Rome being a hegemon of the empire and the people that they were working with. An easy example of this is how they manufactured gods. The amount of, like, I think it's Minerva Sula, like how those gods were merged, so you had Celtic gods and Hellenic gods. Like the Roman pantheon, the Greek pantheon, obviously very easily merged together because the religions had a common springing off point. The Celtic religion and the Roman religion would have had another common springing off point, just would be further back. And obviously the Celtic pantheons weren't as unified as the Roman pantheons, but then, pardon me, the Roman pantheons weren't necessarily that unified anyways. And yeah, it's administration. Horrific administration would lead to stuff like the Irish potato famine, and then complete discontent would compound that issue, where you can actually see in the genealogy of the people today the issues very much like the Ukrainians have the issue with the Soviets, because under Stalin under Stalin it was much more malicious, because there is a lot of evidence to suggest that he was actually just trying to starve the Ukrainians out. Danbro Gold receipts. What's your hair color? It's like a browny blonde, I would say personally. Yes, guys. Anyways, make sure if you want your questions definitely answered, make sure you put them in the YouTube live chat, because YouTube gets priority. And also, while you're over there, make sure you like and subscribe, because obviously we want to move over to YouTube properly. Yeah, they banned the color green. Didn't know that. I didn't know that. I don't care how Ireland suffered from a famine when they live in an island surrounded by water. So the reason that Ireland had the potato famine, I learnt this from Stakuyi recently, was because they were forced to grow a lot of potatoes. Once those crops began to fail, there was nothing to feed them. And the British government, not the British people, the British government decided that they weren't going to really help. This would lead to the Ottomans supplying like help and stuff, but that doesn't really counteract for the fact that they sent Barbary pirates over to capture random women for Ottoman harems, and this was actually widely practiced around the Islamic world anyways. But that delves into sexual slavery, and that's something I'd need to be very careful to tread around with both TikTok and YouTube guidelines. Are you into military history? Yes, I love military history. I love a lot of conquerors. Obviously, ironically, being massively anti-war, I can see how people believe that to be an oxymoron. But yes, I am very, very big on military history. So yeah, ask away. But anyways, guys, as we're leading into, I think it's the last 20 minutes of the live, make sure you get your questions in either on YouTube or on TikTok, and especially over on YouTube. Denizen over on YouTube side just says potato. I can't comment because I don't want to get cancelled. Man, do I want him to get his moustache caught in spokes of penny farthing? Don't own a penny farthing, although if, you know, for enough money I would try it. I love, hello mate. Hello John Marston himself. Do you know what? I've still never completed Red Dead. I started it. I started it in university. I let my friend play on it, and then he shot a woman, and I was trying to play a really good character, and I just never picked it up again. I don't have the time at the moment. Although I might try and play a little bit of games tonight while I'm editing. I'll probably be watching The Law Lodge for a little bit as well. Um, uh, uh, I love World War II history. Have you made a video of it on YouTube? Yes, I have. I've made several World War II videos. One of my favorite videos I made, well, not on World War II, but on World Wars. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, I will share my screen so I can show you the video. But I made a video on the armistice and how that all came about. And also the after effects on that. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see that now. And if you're watching on TikTok and you want to go back and double check, you can obviously see everything. Yeah, but I've made a video on the armistice, and the reason that's a very important video to me, this was what made me very anti-war, aside from the Doctor Who speech, was simply World War One, because World War One was just men, because one Serbian guy decided to shoot an Austrian guy, and that meant that millions of men needed to die. That's it. That's the and World War One is possibly the worst conflict for soldiers in human history, because there's no, like, so if the Romans attacked, they're attacking to expand their empire. There's momentum. You're doing it for the glory of Rome. And if you're a Celtic or Germanic tribesman, or you're in a Jewish resistance, you're fighting to defend your home and your resources. So there's justification on both sides for a war. Yes, it's horrible, and men and women are going to die, and children are going to die, but you can see the justification behind it. World War One is just imperial egos. That's World War One. The be all and end all of it. That's World War One. 100%. That's World War One. Anyways, aside from that, in fact, I'm gonna have to just go regular, look at my videos regularly because it would be easier. I've got a couple of podcasts with Count Daedalus where we look at, in fact, we've actually got sorting dictators into their Hogwarts houses, and I've got a couple of dictators videos with Count Daedalus where we look at dictators specifically, which obviously covers a lot of World War II history. For World War II specifically, I've actually got the Christmas truce for World War One as well. I forgot about that. I believe I have the Easter truce somewhere as well. Yeah, so I've got like 3 videos on World War One, which you can tell which war I've better researched on. An older video from a year ago, I have the Piggyback Flight, which is the story of Lieutenant, or would be because he's American, so it'd be Lieutenant Glenn Rojon and Lieutenant William G. Leake, and that story is about 2 B-17 bombers that slammed into each other and they had to land on the ground, and it's a very sad story for the end. And then the other World War II story I have is the German pilot who saved a B-17, Franz Stigler and Charlie Brown. And that's my favourite story from World War II because it's a story of camaraderie between warring nations. And I won't spoil too much of that. But yeah, they're much earlier. You have to scroll down a bit further on YouTube if you want access to them. Over on YouTube side, we have, when I was a kid, I used to stay up till like 3 AM watching Military History Channel, and when it was a thing. Same. I actually grew up. My dad owned the collection of World War, and so I watched a lot of World at War growing up, and that was my jam overall. And just again, guys, make sure you head over, obviously, YouTube comments, get priority and questions asked over there. So if you are watching on TikTok, make sure to go over there, like and subscribe, and I will answer your questions on both. How come you're anti-war? I'm joining the army and all started from history. So I see the necessity for an army because there are factors in the world of people who would like to attack us. The certain country next to Taiwan, West Taiwan as I like to call it. We'll see how long my live gets taken, how quickly my live gets taken down. And obviously nations such as Russia, which are deemed threats and such. War just kills people. Like, essentially, a war is the beef between one leader of one country and another leader from another country, and then the regular man needs to go and fight it. And then the women and children need to suffer at home and worrying if their husband's going to come back from war, and also need to run the country while all the men are away fighting a war. That is warfare in a nutshell. So I understand and I respect our troops, and I always, thank them for their service. But war, as a nutshell, is a horrific side effect of the human condition. Thank you, Fortunate Son, for following. I met Dutch, Horse, and Arthur. Nice. These are Red Dead's thingies that I don't understand. 2 family members who fought in World War One under the British Army. Cool. Did you know, actually, in World War II, there was around 70,000 Irish volunteers to fight in the war. So when I talk about Anglo-Irish history, it's not the people themselves tend to unite and come together. It's governments. We have to be very careful there because we can't get too political. But yeah, there were 70,000 volunteers, and obviously also thank you for your family service in World War One. Mustache goes crazy. It very much does. It was literally cousins petty fighting. Yes, in fact, there's a very good quote I remember when I was researching the Christmas truce, or even though it was over a year ago now. There was a German who turned around to an Englishman and he said, "Why are we fighting? We're Saxons and you are Anglo-Saxons." And that was World War One. Like, especially considering there was Scottish and Welsh troops in Ireland. I don't know the actual native name for Scotland, but troops from Cymru were in Ire during the Revolution. So that entire period is just cousins fighting. In fact, most of the British Isles, the history of the British Isles in particular, is cousins fighting. So most of the Balkan history is people saying, like, two who lived around the corner, fighting. Churchill was not a patron for England. Churchill almost ruined England. What? Okay, do you know what? I'm not going to cover that too much because I am in discussions with another creator about doing a live specifically dedicated to that. And we have the same childhood history channel for all the same history channel before it went crazy and started talking about aliens. Although when I was a kid, I watched a lot of Ancient Aliens and I did believe in it, and it's a big shameful thing for me now. All I'm going to say is it's so easily, like, if you have a family member who's watching like these flat Earth documentaries or Ancient Aliens, get them to speak to a historian because they're so easily debunked. Like, you have Ancient Apocalypse now, which Aidan Mattis has discussed in the Law Lodge, and his dissection of Graham Hancock's hypotheses is very, very good, and it's very unbiased. He is someone who is very much on the pro-Atlantis was a thing side of the argument, and he's actually managed to swing me over more to that side. I'm not entirely convinced in the existence of Atlantis, but I'm more on that side. He is very unbiased, and it's one of the reasons I get on very well with Aidan Mattis. Classic name dropper. Churchill was a British hero again. I'm currently looking at some of you may know him as History Revealed. We're currently in discussions about doing a live together soon. It was men that fought and when that died that helped the heroes. Yes, agreed. It's a mixture. Leadership is very dependent. Like, Alexander the Great isn't going anywhere without his army, but his army isn't going to be nearly as successful without his leadership. We'll see that the Phillips. Who's your fave AEW wrestler? Also, thank you for the follow, Ava. I don't watch wrestling. I've heard some awful things about corruption in WWE, but yeah, which wrestling company would you recommend to get into wrestling if I get time to read it? I do love the storylines in wrestling. I have the WWE 2K19 in the back, which I never got around to actually playing properly. Dragons War, we lost our empire due to it. It didn't drag us into the war. If anything, we got declared on Germany far too late because we had, like, Western Europe abandoned Poland in World War II. The same as we abandoned Hungary when the Soviets were busy occupying them. We had to go to war with Germany. There wasn't there was an option, yes, but eventually the Austrian Peyton was a madman and he would have tried to have gone to war anyways. Yeah, so of course, a family fought in Egypt, France, and led by a hero. Thank you. Thank them for your service. What do you do for work? At the moment, so as I said in my YouTube update a while ago, I sadly lost my social media management job at the start of the year, and I've been doing this and trying to get this off the ground for a while, which is why I'm so heavily. Perfect reminder to say. Make sure you subscribe to the History Daddy YouTube channel, and obviously all chats in the YouTube chat are prioritised, and you will get your questions answered first over there. But at the moment, yeah, it's content creation. I may be going back into doing some freelance social media management soon, which will put this on the back burner, but I've got at least I did do a vote to see should I split the vlog into 3 parts, and it was a resounding no. But the vlog probably will, because I just have so much vlog footage. So we will probably be splitting that into 3 parts. Also, thank you for likes, 333 likes, guys. Make sure to share the live. Share the live. It's the first time I've ever said that. Just look at who was paying Churchill's lifestyle before he came Prime Minister. I haven't looked into that. When really class him as a hero, he tricked both Protestant and Irish Catholic Irish. There's a lot of stuff. This is one thing. I'm not going to get into Churchill too much right now, because like I said, I'm going to have people on the Daddy Chats live on YouTube. That will be exclusively on YouTube, because obviously I can't stream him talking to me. So if you want to make sure you get that, make sure you're subscribed to YouTube, and we'll be diving into Churchill. Was he a good person? Was he a bad person? Or was he, like most historical figures, somewhere in between? I'm very much a person who's like nuance on everything. Do you know Jethro Tull Group? It's progressive music from the 70s. I've not heard of them, but I'm happy to look them up. You look kind of like James McGuinness, but with a little lighter hair colour. I'm going to look. John McGinn. Who's John McGinn? Am I about to be deeply insulted? Oh, he's a football player for Aston Villa, I believe. I don't know. But he looks right. Thank you very much. I hope there's nothing scary about him from the 30 seconds of research I just did. Appreciate that. All politicians tend to have big drawbacks. Yes, very true. If you can tell from the fact that this entire Daddy Chats live, which is also streaming to YouTube, feel free to head over there, has been focused on how my favourite moment in history is when the Dutch ate their Prime Minister. You can tell my view of politicians. I love Kane and The Undertaker's backstory. The Undertaker's one of the few wrestlers I actually know anything about, and I actually quite enjoy the story of. Do you know Jeffrey Tobowitz? Yeah, no, I just said that. Are you a royalist? Yes, I would consider. I would consider myself a little bit of a monarchist. I'm specifically libertarian monarchist, but I don't like to talk politics over here. I read about we didn't abandon Poland. We did. We took far too long to invade Poland. In fact, Poland was mobilizing against Germany at one point. They were preparing themselves. Poland was preparing themselves to repel Germany. Don't forget, this is the same Poland that repelled the Soviets. Like, what, 10 years earlier. If the Polish had been allowed to mobilize, and we had actually offered them any serious support, and instead of having the phony war period, we would have been able to obliterate Germany so much quicker, because we gave them too much momentum. The entire reason the war faltered was because we had Neville Chamberlain and the French crying over if we should actually go to war. My favourite moment is when the bad moustache man did himself in. Yes, the Austrian painter taking himself out. Actually, I can ruin that moment for you. Before he decided to take himself out, he tested the cyanide capsule on his dog, because the man was a vegetarian coward. Also, Sir Wooly over on YouTube just walked into hearing about the Dutch eating their Prime Minister. Yes, that's the entire purpose of this episode, of a format I'm 100% stealing from Aiden. That is. And just testing it, because obviously normally I try and play Baldur's Gate. I may do a bit more Baldur's Gate next weekend. I was just testing this format. I'll probably come into it a bit more prepared and a bit less hungover next weekend. But yes, the Dutch did eat their Prime Minister, and if you want to go into that, you can rewind. I'll probably do a more like solid video on the Dutch eating their Prime Minister with actual facts and well researched and edited, and not me going 400 times. But yeah, the Austrian painter was very much a coward, and he tested it on his own dog. In fact, there's a hypothesis that he shot Eva Braun first, and he made her unalive herself first to definitely make sure it wouldn't be painful. Did he unalive himself? Look, I know there's a conspiracy theory for that, or a conspiracy hypothesis, because theory obviously doesn't. Theory is concrete, and it's used incorrectly in a lot of places. Did he unalive himself? There was a plane chartered. We never found a body. That's all I'll say, and it's something I will probably look into later date. Whole history where Poland curb stopped. Poland curb stopped in 1939 is crazy. Yes, there is there's a couple of alt histories where I looked in that, and I think the Polish could maybe not curb stomp Germany. I think they definitely could have pulled a good defense. If the Allies actually bothered to be allies, we could have actually saved, like, prevented so much unaliving. But then again, we have hindsight, and Neville Chamberlain was trying to avoid mass unalivings by avoiding a war. I wish we could have done it instead. There's a really funny film I keep meaning to watch about an American GI who was the man to kill the Austrian unalive the Austrian painter. Germany. That's right. I understood what you meant. Sir Wooly, good old Sir Wooly. I'm liking the new profile picture, by the way. I do love the Scottish flag, or the Albion flag, and I think that's what it is. I've lost my train of thought here. I'm also starting to desperately need a pee, so I'll probably end the live soon. I'm going to end the live about 10 o'clock. I'm only going to go live for an hour or so. I was going to do 2 hours, but that's normally if I'm gaming, and like I say. Anyways, and the only mod here is drunk history. Things are going to be fun. To be fair, I've been running without a mod the whole time, Mr. Luton. Good on it. I would have been happier if he'd spent years in international prisons. I can't say things I want to say because TikTok guidelines. Do you know what? The only 2 videos I've ever had taken down from... Actually, no. I had another one taken down recently, but I forget what the reasoning was. So, the only 2 videos I've had taken down on TikTok was for hate speech and bullying. The person I was bullying? The Austrian painter. Obviously, those videos were very quickly reinstated when I made videos complaining about the fact that TikTok was telling me I was bullying the Austrian painter. CK says Christ is Lord. Yep. I should have been more Mussolini style. Listen, Mussolini absolutely loved the swing set he got for Christmas. I'm not gonna read that out because TikTok guidelines. When I'm on with History Revealed, oh, Miss Luton, hello on the YouTube side says hello, lads. Yeah, when I do, thank you, Ruben, for following. When I do more live over on YouTube, then we'll be a lot more careful. When I'm doing both, it's okay. But when I have guests on, I obviously don't because I'm Miss Luton is on both YouTube and TikTok, getting the views up properly. I love as I'm looking at ending the stream, the views go up, but I'm gonna come off soon. I have an important question to ask. Go on, guy in a blue shirt, ask away. You didn't tell me you was live, mate. I did. I put it in the Discord. I just forgot to tag you. You seem alright for a girl. I'm only like an 8th Celtic. That's why I only ever say I have Irish ancestry, because I think it's very harsh to say I have Irish heritage or to call myself anywhere near Irish. I have the Irish flag in my bio to represent that I'm, recognise my ancestry, and I'm proud. Should history? I always forget that I gave you the ability to do polls in my streams. What? This is not what mods are for, Mr. Luton. I just looked over at the YouTube chat and I saw one of the I saw a red light on one of the audios and I was very worried I'd messed up for a second then. But yeah, so I have the Irish ancestry, but I never claim to be Irish because it's like, I've never been to Ireland. I don't know the language and I'm not that up on the culture, but I do adore Celtic mythology and I'm learning, which is why if you noticed my first 2 mythology video, well, a good majority of my mythology videos are on focusing very much more on Celtic mythology and folklore. But it's stuff to look into. I never claim to it because I feel like I'm in sort of stealing culture that isn't mine. But I'm I'm hesitant to say proud of the heritage and the ancestry because it's just being proud of being born into something. If you're gonna be proud, you should be proud of your own accomplishments. or as a modern group accomplishment, as long as you're involved in it. Um, yeah. Oh, you nearly accidentally ended the live there. You seem alright for a count. Hello there, up Celtic based. I'm rooting for you. Hope you get better on YouTube. Thank you very much. It's a grind at the moment, and we'll see where it goes. Oh, did Mussolini get a swing set, or is that an inside joke I'm missing? So the Mussolini getting a swing set is because he was hung by the Italians, because the Italian people were fed up with Mussolini. In fact, I believe the king of Italy at the time was one of the leading figures in the revolt against Mussolini. But yeah. When I say swing set, it's a joke because he got hung by Italian partisans. Who I'm very careful because I don't want to make the communists mad at me. I've had at least 8 videos taken down because of harassment and bullying. To be fair, Denizen, your videos toe the line a lot more closely to that guidelines than I do. I'm not surprised the TikTok's coming for you there. Also, guys, stop trying to request to go live. I don't do joint lives on TikTok. Whilst I do find your videos very, very funny. You should actually post more YouTube shorts, my guy. I feel like you can get away with a lot more on YouTube. Although they are starting to clamp down if you mention certain viruses. Even if you support the science. Because YouTube. You've seen that. Yeah, you did say. Love the mustache, thank you very much. No, mate, I'm a good mod. Oh, I love Celtic mythology. Very, very based. Very based. Him and his family got hung, I think. Yes, I believe. No, I know him and his wife did, because they got caught trying to go into, I believe it was Switzerland, because every we're gonna say naughty socialist, because I can't say the words of the Yahtzees or Ashists. So naughty socialist is just the easier way to say it. Yes, thank you for the gift so far tonight as well, guys. It all goes a long way. I'm hoping that I can get accepted to the TikTok creator program soon, because that'll actually help me towards my content creation goal. I'm half Scottish and half Irish and very Celtic. Wow. That's cool, man. That's cool. Did Mussolini get his things? Yes, that's what we just went over. You can be proud for small part Irish. You have at least Irish American. I've spoken to some. I've explained to some American friends that call themselves Irish that if they said that in Ireland, they probably wouldn't have teeth for very long. History Daddy saying hi to Baby Denizen. Hello, Baby Denizen. Hope you're being well behaved for your dad, and make sure you get some rest. It's Monday tomorrow, so you've got education. I don't know how old Baby Denizen is, so I'm going to assume it's like preschool or something. But make sure you're well behaved. I don't know where else to go with that. My humorist is too adult. But now I know Baby Denizen is watching. I will try and keep the swearing to a minimum. Doing ancestry test. I'm begging. I've got some spicy history. See, I want to do an ancestry test, but I know that I'll do it on a video. When I get some cash in. I know for a fact that video is going to be hilarious, because most of it's going to be me hoping and praying I've got some Greek in me. Because I want to be connected to Greece. Name a movie for an edit and I'll tag you in it. The Dark Crystal. The Dark Crystal. The Dark Crystal. Also, British Army Tributes followed me. Thank you very, very much. The Dark Crystal is the best movie ever made, other than, I'd say, maybe The Joker. But go for The Dark Crystal. Whereabouts in Ireland, if they said that? I don't know. I just know I've known a few Irish and Scottish people that don't like it when Americans claim that. I know a few Italian, and I nearly went full American. Italians. I know a few Italians that get very upset when Americans call themselves Italian. People in NYC don't understand Irish because didn't understand Irish because I've got a Northern Irish accent. Oh, this is why we don't go to New York City. But also we're 5 minutes over, guys. So I'm probably I want to be Greek so badly. Studying ancient history at A level at the moment. Yeah, I want to be connected. Also, we just hit 1K likes. I might go to the toilet very quick if we're gonna carry on because we are getting a few people in. Bear with me, guys. Bear with me. I'm gonna run to the toilet very, very, very quick. Very, very quick. Don't leave. Actually, no, I might just end it. Yeah, we've been going for an hour or so. I think we've got some good views in. Yeah, no, I'm gonna chill out now because I desperately need to loo. But thank you all for watching. If you've been watching over you, oh, I have a cool family history. I have my own family. Remember, let's just say I have a great uncle who played Yahtzee before he moved to Canada, still alive. It's very spicy history. That is some interestingly spicy history. But yeah, thank you all for watching on both YouTube and TikTok. If you are watching on TikTok, please go over to YouTube, like and subscribe over there, and tap the bell icon to get notified whenever I upload. YouTube is where, obviously, these are Big Daddy followed the live creator. Thank you very, very much. Hello from Russia. It says Ratmir Top G. Hello from UK. Yes. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed the story of the time the Dutch ate their Prime Minister, and I hope I answered your questions to the best of my ability. And I hope to see you on all of my platforms very, very soon. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know in the comments below if I got anything wrong, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you all for watching. Bye.